Hello everyone, and welcome to the UBA Season 3 Week 5 Power Rankings. So for this week, I will not be including Hazy / Bursidon for like a day / now Jacob in the Power Rankings because since it's under a new owner and Jacob hasn't played a single game yet, I can't really rank him. So everyone will be effectively moved up one rank this week because of that, and then he'll kind of rejoin the rank next week after he gets a battle under his belt. But just wanted to get that out of the way before we started, so I'll only be ranking 10 teams. But other than that, let's get right into it. At number 10, I have Flair. It's close between whether to put Flair or Mars at number 10. Neither of them played super well this week. Flair just got the fuck beaten out of him by Jeff, and Mars had a super hacksy game versus PK. I definitely say Jeff is the better coach of the two, so even though Flair's game was much more dominant, or Flair was dominated much harder, it was also versus a tougher opponent. So I'd say these two are very close. I ended up putting Flair below, but I feel like it could really go either way. But anyways, this week, Flair didn't bring his Kyurem to a match where, like, Kyurem really had absolutely zero switch-ins. Jeff had no way to deal with the Kyurem. And he just didn't bring it. Don't ask me why, but he didn't. I'd imagine he'd say something like, "Oh, but a Lopunny can kill it in one hit, but therefore I can't bring my Kyurem," because I don't know. That's kind of the way he likes to argue, but Lopunny can't be in the game 100% of the time, and whenever against Jeff's team, Lopunny is in the game, Kyurem's claiming a kill. So Kyurem was a must bring here, and you didn't bring it, and then you got pretty much smashed. Scarf Torn was actually a pretty good bring this week, and it did put in some work until Bisharp trapped it. But yeah, he brought some really weird sets, like Rock Polish Gliscor against a team that has a Skarmory, and then tried to set up in front of a Buzzwole. He switched Buzzwole in on a quite likely Ice Punch because it was coming in off of a Torn, so he switched Gliscor in on a quite likely Ice Punch. That Ice Punch didn't end up coming out, but like it was still a really weird play and very bad play. It didn't make any sense. And also made a really weird play of bringing in Zoroark on a Starmie after Whirlpooling it. So, like, I don't know, maybe his Vaporeon didn't have recovery, but if it did, I don't know if it ended up, it probably did win that 1v1 eventually. If it had Parasong, does Vaporeon even get Parasong? I feel like it doesn't, but if it doesn't, then why the hell are you running Whirlpool? Hold on, I'm checking my phone. Vaporeon. Does it get Parasong? It doesn't. Why are you running? Why are you running Whirlpool Vaporeon, dude? So I'm not sure what was going on there. And then he switched Zoroark in on it, and then just died. Just some weird plays overall, and yeah, pretty much got dominated by Jeff this week. But I guess on the bright side, he does move up one spot because he was the last, and now there's only 10 ranked coaches, so he technically moves up a spot. Number 9, I have Mars, who also played a really weird game. Debatably worse than Flair, but I'd say maybe his prep is a bit better. He had some really weird plays, like bringing in Crook on a Mega Altaria, and then getting returned. And then the next turn bringing in Zeraora on the Mega Altaria and getting returned again, and like losing 70% on each of them for no reason. When they had an Empoleon the entire time, so that's definitely not ideal. He had a tremendous amount of hacks going his way this game. I I'd say definitely the only one that really mattered was the Zygarde, because Zygarde was probably claiming at least one kill, maybe two. I don't know the role. If Zygarde lived for 2 turns at that point, he could have claimed 2 kills. Otherwise, after the Earthquake without a crit. Does crit go through screens? I'm not sure if crit goes through screens or not. Yeah, I'm not sure. But, I don't know. No, there's no way a crit Earthquake did like 60 while going through a screen. So crits don't go through screens. So I don't know. He probably would have done 40. Zygarde claimed 1, maybe 2. I'm not sure. But that's definitely 2 kills that PK didn't get. But yeah, he just didn't play the game super well. Like I said before, switching in weird things into things and taking tons of damage, and really just having no way to break down PK's stall team that he brings pretty much every week. He brought Heatwave Staraptor, but I think he forgot about the part where Staraptor has 50 special attack. So that didn't work out super well. Yeah. Not much else to go over. So he'll have to... I've only seen one game from Mars, and it hasn't been super good, so hopefully he can bring it back next week. I think he's playing Jacob for his first one. So I've only seen one game out of Mars and 0 games out of Jacob, so that'll be interesting. So we'll see what happens there, and if he can bounce back. Number 8, I have PETA, who played Reggie this week and got 6-0'd. And I feel like PETA didn't deserve to get 6-0'd. So what I feel happened is that PETA's team is just, or his draft is just really bad. Like I said, he has very little power. I criticized him for having no little power from the start, or very little power from the start, when he had Mega Garchomp as a fantastic breaker, and then he dropped his Mega Garchomp, and I was like, what are you doing? That was your only source of power. Now you have Latias and Excadrill as your strongest mons. He had no way to break Reggie's Lando, and no way to put any pressure on his team whatsoever. Pete brought some pretty cool sets and actually, made some cool predictions, like Toxicking into the Lando, HP Icing the Lando, but, everything was too weak to really get anything done. Nothing on his team was strong enough to really put Reggie in a bad situation. Like, when Latias came in, he was free to just, go in with Aromatisse, heal everyone up, wish pass into everyone. And he could really do that without any consequence, and he was able to keep Lando pretty much healthy the entire game. So I thought Pete had some pretty neat prep, and his play wasn't, that bad. His team's really bad, and it's giving him very few options to win games because he can't keep pressure. It's not that fat. Mold Breaker Excadrill, as soon as it blew its load on Orlando, I mean, it was probably a bit obvious that it was Mold Breaker when it came in on the Rotom, or yeah. So maybe it would have been a better idea to hold off on the Z, or maybe go with a different Z. But yeah, I think Pete's team is just really bad in terms of draft. I don't think he did that bad of a job this week. He just his draft gave him no options to win the game. And since he's used 2 of his transactions to, in my opinion, make his draft worse, this is going to be kind of hard to work around. I think he should use his last transaction to pick up any form of a breaker. Maybe Hoopa Unbound. That's a pretty nice one. That's probably the best one you're going to get out there. But yeah, other than that, you've got to get some power on your roster because you've got none right now. Number 7, we have the New York Grand Bulls and Robot Boy, who took a forfeit. Oh, I have a question mark here still, because when I was doing these PRs, Jacob hadn't joined yet, but it's now Jacob that he got the forfeit from. So yeah, not much to say here. Just got the forfeit win from Jacob. But he still only has a win over Jolty through hacks. But he hasn't. To be fair, his schedule has been kind of hard. Besides Kudo, and he should have won that game, but he lost. So now he's kind of slipping. But his prep and play has been at least more sound than the ones below him. Maybe not more than PETA, but PETA's draft is ass. So All in all, I'd say he ranks just above those lower tier coaches, and he's going to need to really start to pick up wins against meaningful coaches, not through means other than hacks, to start progressing up. Number 6, I have Tepig, who lost to Jolty this week in a decently close game. He just severely underprepped for Necrozma. He had no way to deal with it. And now, to be fair, Necrozma is very difficult to deal with Mon, but he definitely did not bring the adequate prep of dealing with it, and let it claim like 2 Mons. And after that point, it was pretty much over. There was no coming back from it. There was just too much damage done. Mega Sceptile also is a bit under prepped for as well. But Tepig, much like before, has throughout the season just had significantly more solid prep and play than the other coaches. He's just had a fairly difficult schedule. Jeff and Reggie, definitely difficult opponents. Jolty too. PK's been middling, but he's been showing some signs of promise, so I don't know. He definitely didn't play that game particularly well, but he's definitely at least shown better than the coaches below him, and has a fairly decent schedule, so his record is a bit justified. So we'll see where he goes from here, but I have him ranked number 6 at the moment, and that's considering that Jacob's out of the rankings. Number 5, we have Jolty, who is actually starting to creep back up again after getting that win versus Tepig. A really good bring on the Necrozma set. I think he really should have brought Moonlight on it. If he brought Moonlight, then Tepig lost in the spot. One big problem with Tepig's team is he was incredibly underprepped for Arcanine. Arcanine was like putting him in a scenario where he really could not do anything about it. And luckily he got roared into his Necrozma and just started setting up on Arcanine, and then killed it. So after that point, really Jolty didn't have to do much to win the game. But that Arcanine was really looking like a big threat, and possibly like such a threat that Jolty was going to probably lose the game, because I could not see how he was really going to beat it. I don't know the full set of it. I know it was Morning Sun, Flare Blitz. I think it had Roar. I don't know what its last move was, but even then, that was probably enough to annoy the hell out of him, because his only way to touch it, like survive it, was like a hits from Sylveon, but Sylveon can't really kill it. Maybe Sylveon could have stalled it out of Morning Suns, but I don't think he even had Toxic to help deal with it. But regardless, he got roared into his Necrozma, and then Necrozma really dismantled Tepig's team, and could have won the game if it had Moonlight, but even then, like, claimed 2.5 kills, and did more than enough for Jolty to just clean up from there. So solid prep, decent, or very well played game from both sides. Like no real misplays, I'd say. And just a good set from Jolty, and being underprepared for Tepig. That was, in that Necrozma was really what determined the game. Number 4, we have PK. I was debating whether to put PK above Jolty or not, because PK does have 2 more wins, but shoot, I think I forgot to put a +1 in front of it and just put a regular 1. Have I been doing that the entire time? Like, are they all just regular numbers if they're not a plus, or if they're not negative, or do I put plus or minus every time? I'm not sure. But regardless, it's over total 1 differential. He has 2 more wins than Jolty does, but his schedule has been significantly easier, playing Pete and Mars, getting fairly decent wins there that I expect Jolty to easily pick up unless Pete improves his roster. And then losing to D-Winchell and Jeff, which are really only coaches who are towards the very top end, so very respectable losses. So Jolty has had a much harder, or not a much harder, yeah, I'd say a much harder schedule, in that he hasn't had these easy wins that PK had yet, and the one that could have possibly be considered an easy win for Jolty and Robot Boy did get hacks from him. So there is that. So I'd consider them fairly close in ranking right now. Do they play each other this week? I don't think so. No, I'm pretty sure they don't. But maybe it'll become more clear who is ahead of the other next week. I definitely feel that Jolty is much more sound as a player. PK makes significant misplays constantly, while Jolty does make some significant misplays, not nearly he doesn't make them nearly at the frequency as PK does. But PK has better results at this point. So that's the argument in favor of Jolty, but the argument in favor of PK being ahead is just the better record. They both have that win over Tepig, but he's got the win over Pete and Mars as well, and no losses versus coaches that shouldn't have beat him. So yeah. In terms of his game this week, PK got hacked significantly, but still overcame the diversity. He had a few weird plays, like going hard into Cress on Charizard when Altaria soundly walled it and finished it, and just sacking Cress for absolutely no reason. A few like suboptimal plays, but no other real significant misplays besides that one. That play really kind of confused me. But like I said, there was definitely a lot of plays where he didn't choose the optimal option, but no plays where it was like clearly not the right option, like a very bad option besides that one, which is some improvement. Because he definitely had a lot more of those early on in the season. So I guess we'll just have to see where he goes from here. But yeah, currently he's doing pretty well at number 4. So yeah, moving on to number 3, I have DeWinchell, who lost to me this week. I don't think he deserved to lose 5-0. The game was definitely closer than that, but he definitely was soundly beat. In the early game, extremely early game, I had the prep to take out a Sand Slash within a few turns. The Assault Vest did actually catch me a bit off guard, and he got the roll to live a Dazzle and had the opportunity to take a roll to kill Coco early in the game, so a few rolls going on there, but ended up clicking knockoff instead. So some interesting what ifs there, but after that point, he was a bit in the hole after Sand Slash went down, but started to bring it back when I overpredicted Sand Slash, or overpredicted Sableye to come in on Medi, which I don't know if it was his best play to not go Sableye and risk his Shaman like he did. Because he was definitely at a range where a high jump kick would really have pretty much killed him, but he didn't risk it, or he did risk it, which was a bit questionable, but did work out for him, and because of that, it put me in a really, really bad scenario. After that point, though, I really put myself back into the game, and there really was not much that DeWinchell had going for him. He just could not stop the core of Coco and Weavile pretty much, and then a bit of Medi at the end, but that really didn't matter. He just did not have the longevity to stop the momentum that I had. So definitely a bit underprepared in terms of prep, and it seemed like he didn't bring any offense, so he was really prepared to play on the back foot and try and win through stall, and just was not able to. So maybe a bit of a reevaluation of how to play the matchup, especially against coaches like me who know how to deal with fat and will take it down if you try and wall out the entire team, which I was expecting because I do know how DeWinchell likes to play. So definitely that playstyle will help him excel versus lower coaches, but as you can see, his losses are to the two coaches above him. Or actually, I'm not ranked there, but two of the coaches above him and me and Reggie, which kind of goes to show his style will really dominate the lower coaches. Actually, ironically, all of his matches are 5-0. His wins are all 5-0, and his losses are all 5-0. So it's not. It's kind of funny that he's either being dominated or dominating, which is showing the matchup and really stylistically of people who know how to deal with the fat and people who didn't know how to deal with his fat. So I think he can definitely just kind of wall out lower end coaches, and there's not much they can do about it because they just don't understand how to break down his fat. But against the higher end coaches, he's really going to need to learn how to either prep more creatively with his fat or bring a more offensive approach so he's not on the back foot the entire time, because against the higher end coaches, if he allows them to put him on the back foot the entire time, he's not going to be able to win the game. So up to number 2, we have Reggie and East Anglia Electivires, who beat Pete this week. Kind of went over it already, but Pete just didn't have the power it took to break down Reggie's team, and Reggie just abused that and brought a pretty fat team and then just sat around and killed everyone. And there really wasn't anything Pete could do, and like that was the best thing Reggie could have done. He abused Pete's weakness, and there was nothing he could do. Fine prep, fine play, and just kind of abused the fact that Pete couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, really not a ton to say there. Some neat or some nice plays were like scouting for ground DMZ with Lando was a pretty nice play. I think a lot of people probably would have forgotten about Mold Breaker in that scenario. And he did a good job keeping his Landorus healthy throughout the match. But yeah, that's about it. Not a whole lot to say here, especially because I covered most of really what happened here in Pete's thing, but really just not a whole lot to say on Reggie. He just brought fat and won because Pete had no way to break fat. And number 1, I have Jeff. And, oh shoot, I forgot to update Jeff's differential. That's supposed to be 22, plus 22. Yeah, a few mistakes with the with the graphics, but at least I said them, so you know it's wrong. It's in the content. But yeah, he beat Flair quite convincingly. He only would have been a 6-0 had his Starmie not got crit, but in the same way he dodged a heat wave on a Skarm, which probably killed. So meh. You lose some, you win some, I guess. So 5-0 probably was what it should have been, without the hacks anyways. But yeah, Jeff has just been dominant. One small concern I'd say is that he hasn't had a chance to play any of the super top end coaches, the highest being Tepig. But he has been absolutely dominating all of the lower coaches. But that's changing this week when he plays Reggie. So I guess that'll be interesting. So if he can, he's definitely at number 1 at the moment just because he hasn't lost a game. He's been incredibly dominant. But if Reggie's able to pick him off here, Reggie will definitely prove that Jeff has been just benefiting more, or at least more so than Reggie has just been benefiting from a really easy schedule up until this point. So yeah, I'd say the number 1 spot is definitely in contention, and whoever wins this game will likely take it. But Jeff is absolutely smoking everyone on differential. He's undefeated. He's been absolutely dominating coaches. 5-0 against Flair, 6-0 PK. I believe he 6-0'd Kudo as well. Closer games versus Peta and Tepig, but still very, very dominant. And a very, pretty incredible performance up until this point in the season. Having 22 differential in 5 games, that's pretty ridiculous. So yeah, Jeff is the number 1 team, and I guess that concludes this week's matchup, or this week's power rankings. See you next week.